Hare Krishna, dear devotees, once again.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
A very warm welcome to all of you by ISKCON Bhagavata Mahavidyalaya. My name is Shri Lakshmi Devi Dasi. Hare Krishna Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances and all glories to Srila Prabhupada, Guru and Gauranga. A very warm welcome to His Grace Madhavananda Das Prabhuji. Please accept my humble obeisances, Prabhuji. I wish you a very happy Krishna conscious Yogini Ekadashi to all. Let's begin with the class. Thank you so much, Mataji. Let's begin with the class with the introduction of Prabhuji. His Grace Madhavananda Prabhuji is an author, he is a researcher and speaker on Gaudiya Vaishnavism, the director of Gaura, the Gaudiya Udiya Research Association, the Puri branch of BRC, Bhakti Vedanta Research Center, and the managing editor of ISKCON Gopal Geo Publications. He is a disciple of Sri Srimad Gaur Govind Swami Maharaj, who is a senior disciple of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Madhavananda Das is a founder and editor of Shri Krishna Kathamrita magazine and its email sister publication, Shri Krishna Kathamrit Bindu, since 1993. He is based in Odisha and Jagannath Puri, where he conducts retreats, parikramas, and research on traditional Udiya Gaudiya Vaishnavism in the Holy Dham. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for joining us today on this auspicious day. And I request all the devotees to kindly hail 3 times Hare Krishna Mahamantra for his warm welcome. So may we do that? Dear devotees, may I request you to kindly chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra 3 times for his warm welcome, please. May I request all the devotees to kindly turn on the camera for a while so that we all connect nicely. Thank you so much. Such a pleasure to see all the devotees all together. Thank you. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, dear devotees, for all your active participation. I give it to you to Prabhuji. Prabhuji, probably your mic is off.
No. It should be working
Yes.
now. Can you hear me okay?
Thank you. Yes,
So
absolutely clear.
thank you very much. My thanks to all the devotees for inviting me to come and speak. I feel a little funny because Krishna Katha should be Guya Makyati Prichati, should be something very personal and from the heart. And I don't have the good fortune of having met most of you here before. So anyway, we'll go ahead and try to say something for the pleasure of the devotees. Hare Krishna. Gora Gaganya Gana Gotra Goloruharam Gauranga Gudatama Gopyada Kolpa Briksham Gopala Gada Ratidam Yati Singha Gora Govinda Deshikavaram Satitam Namami. Uttama Adama Kichuna Bachila Jachiya Dile Kakola Kahe Premananda Hemona Gauranga Hridoya Dariya Bola Bhaja Gauranga Kaha Gauranga Laha Gaurangera Namare Jai Jana Gauranga Bhaje Se Hoya Mara Pranare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Yeshayeva Padambuja Bhakti Labhya, Prema Bhidana Parama Pumata, Tasmai Jagan Mangala Mangalaya. Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Madgavira Gopala Sri Kriyat Kripaya Jadi Tadaiva Sambhaya Pidvaha Rishe Yustat Priya Janaha Shri Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Sasanatana Rupakam Gopala Raghunathabda Brajabala Bapahimam Vanchakopatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Brinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Kadaha chit kalindi tatavipina sangita kadavo Mudabhiri narivadana kamalasvadamadupa Rama Shambhu Brahma Madapati Ganesha Chitapado Jagannatha Swami Nayana Patagami Bhavatumi Jagannatha Swami Nayana Patagami Bhavatumi. So, in a few days in Jagannath Puri will be the Ratha-yatra festival. And we'd like to say a few things about Ratha-yatra ahead of time. I was thinking to say something about Lakshmi Devi in connection with Ratha-yatra, which is a subject which a lot of times Gaudiyas don't speak so much about, but it is important also for Gaudiyas. Lakshmi Devi has a very important role for the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. We'd like to explore a little bit about that. After all, in Jagannath Puri, it's not called the Jagannath Mandir, it's the Sri Mandir. It's Lakshmi Devi's temple. That's her place. She has a very special role there. So different times people, when they speak about Ratha-yatra, they think of Ratha-yatra beginning on Snan Purnima, but there's a very significant event which is intrinsically connected to the Ratha-yatra festival, which takes place 4 days prior to Snan Yatra. And that festival, it's called Rukmini Harana or Rukmini Vivaha. It's on the day that we know of as Pandava Nirjala Ekadasi, which is a Sukla Ekadasi of the month of Jaishta. And on that day, there's a festival, and Lakshmi Devi gets married to Lord Jagannath. Lord Jagannath is represented by Madan Mohan, and one of the priests dresses up like Shishupal, and he tries to oppose the marriage. And then they tie him up and he makes him into a prisoner, and then Balaram comes and releases him. So as part of the ceremony, the cloth between Jagannath, Krishna, and Lakshmi Devi, there's a knot tied in it. That's the sacred knot of marriage. So 4 days later, it's Lord Jagannath's birthday. This Rukmini Vivaha happens, just as we just mentioned, on the Shukla Ekadasi day of the month of Jyeshta, 4 days before Snan Purnima. That's also the day we know of as Pandav and Nirjal Ekadasi. So the Snan Purnima day is actually the day that Lord Jagannath appeared. The deity of Lord Jagannath first appeared in the Gundicha Mandir, and that's a whole another story, which we're not going to go into today. There's so many intimate aspects about Jagannath and Jagannath Ratha-yatra. We could speak about any one of them for weeks and weeks, and you'd never find an end to it. It's such an amazing subject matter. So because that's his birthday, Lord Jagannath has 2, or we might say 3 birthdays. We'll speak more about the third one. One is Janmashtami. The other is Snan Purnima, or Snan Yatra. That's the day that Lord Jagannath was originally installed by Lord Brahma in Satyayuga. And on that day, since the time of Maharaj Indradyumna, who made a special Snan Mandap, or bathing place for Lord Jagannath, on the northeastern wall of the temple, and they bathed Lord Jagannath with hundreds of pots of water that comes from a special well called the Sona Kua, or the Golden Well, which they say is only used once a year for the Snan Yatra festival. And Lord Jagannath gets bathed with hundreds of pots of water. So after being bathed with all those pots of water, in Jagannath Puri, it's considered that Jagannath becomes sick. Of course, Lord Jagannath is Krishna, and there's no question of him ever becoming sick. But they say because all those pots of water were poured over his head, that he became sick. A more likely understanding is offered by some Gaudiya Vaishnavas that the reason why Lord Jagannath, Krishna, wanted to go to the Snan Mandap for his bath was that from that vantage point, long ago before all the buildings were put up in Puri, you could see to the Gundicha Mandir. And that Gundicha Mandir is like Vrindavan. And Jagannath, Vrindavan Bihari Krishna, was feeling so much separation from the Brijbasis, and especially the Gopikas of Vrindavan. So he wants very much to go to that vantage point so that he could see. And when that happened, when he got that vantage point, then his desire to be with him increased and increased, and he developed a fever, Vipralamba Jvara, a fever of separation. And they say that during that period of time, for 15 days, which is known as Anavasra, which is the time that Lord Jagannath is considered to be sick. Srila Prabhupada comments on this in Chaitanya Charitamrita. He says that the word Anavasra is used when Sri Jagannath Ji cannot be seen in the temple. After the bathing ceremony, Snan Yatra, Lord Jagannath apparently becomes sick. He's therefore removed to his private apartment where no one can see him. Actually, during this period, renovations are made in the body of the Jagannath deity. This is called Navayovana. During the Ratha-yatra ceremony, Lord Jagannath once again comes before the public. Thus, for 15 days after the bathing ceremony, Lord Jagannath is not visible to any visitors. So during that Anavasra period, Lakshmi Devi personally takes care of Jagannath. She's a newly wedded wife. She's been married now for 4 days. And she feels great concern that her pati, her husband, has become sick. So Lakshmi Devi, she takes care of Jagannath, and that's a whole nother subject too, what things are offered to the Lord at that time. But during that period of time, those 15 days, which correspond to the time that Vishvakarma was making the deity of Jagannath, during those 15 days, Lakshmi Devi doesn't sleep. And she's just completely absorbed in taking care of Lord Jagannath. Now, if you didn't go for sleep for 15 days, you would become very, very tired. So after 15 days, Lakshmi Devi falls asleep. You can't blame her. And as soon as she falls asleep, what does Jagannath do? Immediately, Lord Jagannath, he unties the knot in their cloth, and he leaves his newly married wife, who's so chaste and devoted to him, and he goes out to see his girlfriends. And Lakshmi Devi, she sleeps for some time. When she wakes up, she finds that Jagannath is gone. And this is on the second day, the bright half moon of Ashada. That's when the Gundicha Yatra begins. Lord Jagannath, he gives darshan just before that day, and as Srila Prabhupada comments in his purport, that darshan is called Navayovana darshan, because during those 15 days, Lord Jagannath, generally, they don't bathe him with water. And so when they give him the full bath with water, his body becomes transcendentally damaged. And actually, this rope that I have around my neck, this is given to me by one of the Mahants in Puri. It's a silk rope. This is what they use to tie Jagannath to the chariot. And this little pink cloth, which is lassa leather color, this is actually from the body of Jagannath. This was given me by a wonderful devotee who just passed away a few days ago. His name is Jagannath Patra. Some of you may know him. He's very well known in ISKCON. He makes deities of Jagannath. In his service for Jagannath, he's one of the Daityapatis, servants of Jagannath. His particular service is that he refurbishes the body of Jagannath. And Jagannath's body has 7 different layers. That's a whole nother discussion also, which represent the 7 different aspects of the human body, the blood, the bones, the skin, etc. And so this cloth is one of those layers. Of course, he's Daro Brahma. He has a wooden form, but that wooden form is covered with 7 different layers, veins and different things like that. Someone's asking me, is Lakshmi Devi that we're talking about is Rukmini? Yes, this Lakshmi Devi takes the place of Rukmini. In the Skanda Purana, it's mentioned, and a similar thing as Brihad Bhagavatamrita, that Jagannath is avatari, that he manifests different forms at different times. And Lakshmi Devi also manifests her forms sometimes as Rukmini or sometimes as Sita, in the forms of different consorts of the Lord, even though she's Lakshmi Devi. Subhadra manifests that form, I should say, and Lakshmi Devi also. So a few days later, Lakshmi Devi wakes up and she's looking around. She becomes very confused. Where's my husband at? What's going on? And so she asks one of Jagannath's servants, one of his sevaks, and he says, well, he kind of sort of, you see, he went to see his girlfriends. And Lakshmi Devi's not very happy about that. She becomes very depressed. And at that time, Lakshmi Devi leaves the altar. The altar is a place where you accept worship and respect. And Lakshmi Devi, then she finds that very bitter. If her husband's not there and she feels like she's been mistreated, she becomes very depressed. And she goes to the go-down, the storage room of the Jagannath Mandir, and she refuses to take any opulent food. And she eats, like poor people in Orissa, andalua rice and columba sagas, this kind of, some people would think of it as a kind of weed which grows. And those elderly ladies in the villages, they know the tattva about those kind of Spanish things. So there's a book called the Vamadev Samhita, which is one of the primary Stala Puranas in Jagannath Puri. And in particular, this book speaks about the worship of Lord Jagannath, and the Pandas in Puri, they follow the rules and descriptions given in that Vamadev Samhita. So it describes her that Lakshmi Devi at that time, finally she goes to her auntie, who's goddess Bimal Devi. And she tells him what happened. My husband, I was serving him so nice. And as soon as I fell asleep, then he untied the knot in our cloth and he went to meet his girlfriends. This is very bad. He took his sister with me. I'm his wife. He could have also taken me. So in his absence, she said, I've not even done my Pativrata Dharma of taking a bath. And at that time, goddess Bimala Devi, she replied to her, this verse is in the Vamadev Samhita, Yada Davova pi viveka shunyo pi uchatanam tatcha prasidam meva chunam grihitva pi davo pi yatra tat parshvikam gacha sureshvari tvam. Yada davova pi viveka shunyo. That when a husband, viveka shunya, he loses his good intelligence, she says, and then everybody knows, chunam grihitva pidavo piyatra, you have to take shelter of some magic. So she gave Lakshmi Devi some churna, some powder, and she said, you take this magic powder, and churnam grihitva pidavo piyatra, you go where your husband is at, and you take this powder and you go in front of him and you blow it in his face, and he'll get back his good intelligence. So the next day, it's the 5th day after Jagannath's departure, and Lakshmi Devi, she wakes up feeling very sulky, very angry. So finally, she takes a bath and she puts on her ornaments, and then she gets together a group of her girlfriends, because she's a little sulky toward any men. And that day is the Panchama, or the 5th day, and it's known in Jagannath Puri as Hera Panchami. Hera means, in the Oriya language, it means to see. So Lakshmi Devi then, she adopts the mood of an Adira Nayaka, means a angry, jealous lady. And she takes this magic powder and she goes to the Jagannath Mandir. And is a beautiful procession. We've sometimes taken part in that in Jagannath Puri. Oftentimes it goes very late. Returning, last time I took part in the festival, I think she returned about 4 o'clock in the morning. It was like an all-night long festival. And she goes on a palanquin, accompanied by all of her different girlfriends. She goes to the Gundicha Mandir, and there's a ceremony there. One or two of the pandas is tied up with ropes and they're beaten and they break part of the cart. Lakshmi Devi is very angry. For those of you who've been to the Gundicha Mandir, you know that there's 2 different doorways. One is on the west side and one is on the eastern side. And she enters into the door on the western side, and she goes inside and she comes before her husband. And she bows her head before him as a good wife. And she takes this powder and she blows it in his face without saying a word. And then she goes to the chariot driver, Jagannath's chariot driver, and tells him that you should tell your master that Lakshmi Devi now is going back to the palace. I'm a Bideshi by my body. And so last time I took part in this festival, I wasn't able to go inside the Gundicha Mandir. They don't allow that. So I was standing outside the other gate, the gate on the eastern side, which is where Lakshmi Devi comes out. And she didn't come out until maybe 1 o'clock in the morning. And by the time she came out, there was hardly anybody in the procession. And those pandas, their hearts melted a little, I think, to see me. And they were a little kind to us. And then Lakshmi Devi, when she goes back, there's a neighborhood in Jagannath Puri to this day called Hera Gohidi Sahi. And it's a wonderful party. If for those of you who are married men, and you may sometimes wonder what would happen if there's some quarrel between myself and my wife, whose side would my friends take? Well, in Jagannath Puri, although Jagannath is the Lord of the universe, he's Jagannath, and the city's named after him, everybody sides with Lakshmi Devi. And when she's returning on that Hera Gohiri Sahi, everyone comes out of their houses, and they put very beautiful designs on the ground with rice flour and colors and flowers, and they have so many offerings. Practically every house that she goes to, they stop for a few minutes and they do some artik for her. They offer some fruits and flowers and things. And then she goes to the next house and it happens again. And the next house, it happens again. And so she doesn't get back for many hours. So last time I said maybe 4 o'clock in the morning. And then Lakshmi Devi, she's enters back inside the Jagannath Mandir. And there's another interesting ceremony which takes place at that time. Sometimes devotees may wonder, is counseling a bona fide thing? Well, marriage counseling takes place every year in Jagannath Puri. There's a special festival called Lakshmi Narayan Bet. And it's the king of Puri, he acts as a marriage counselor. And he goes to see Lakshmi Devi, and he tries to patch up the misunderstanding between the two of them. So around that time is the Bahuda Rath, when Lord Jagannath returns from the Gundicha Mandir, and that's a whole nother discussion also, the meaning of that Bahuda Ratha-yatra. We wrote some article about that some years ago from a Gaudiya perspective. Very interesting subject. Why, how we're taking Jagannath away from Vrindavan. What is the meaning of that? It's another subject. So Jagannath returns to the Sri Mandir, and at that time, traditionally, they would send an elephant. But Lakshmi Devi, one of her names is Gaja Lakshmi. They would send an elephant for her to ride on to come to meet her husband, who's now returned. And Lakshmi Devi, she's brought to the Chahani Mandap. It's a place near to the Singadwar gate, to see that her husband has returned. So Lakshmi Devi, she's offered an elephant. She very sulkily refuses that. Again, they make that offering. And then Lakshmi Devi finally comes out. Jagannath now, he's sitting in front of the Gundicha Mandir. He just arrived, he's sitting in front of the Sri Mandir. And Lakshmi Devi comes out on a palanquin with her friends. And again, she circumambulates her husband. She bows her head, and without saying a word, she goes back inside of the temple. And usually this takes place on the Dasami, the bright fortnight of the month of Ashada. And then Jagannath wears a special dress, which sometimes in Puri, there's actually more people who come to see that darshan than they do even for Ratha-yatra. Although for most of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas that I know, who are a little learned in Puri, they're not so enthusiastic about this dress. That dress is known as Sunavesh. Suna in Oriya language means gold. And that day, in Orissa is a Bahuda Ekadasi, the return Ekadasi. So Jagannath now, he's returned to the Sri Mandir, and he's found his newly wedded wife. She's become very angry. I mean, you can't blame her. She stayed up all night, didn't sleep for 15 days, and finally she falls asleep, 14 days before she falls asleep. So Jagannath, when he comes back, he sees, oh, I have to pacify my wife. So at that time, he wears the Sunavesh. This is the most opulent of all of Jagannath's dresses. It consists of solid gold hands and feet, many, many gold necklaces, earrings, and golden ornaments. And they say that on that day, between Jagannath Baladi Subhadra, they're wearing more than 1 ton of gold. It's an appropriate kind of dress to try to pacify the goddess of fortune. He has to give her some indication that I'm yours, I'm your husband, and I left those gopis, and now I've come back to you. And so the way that he does that is by dressing up in a very, very opulent way, in a way which he wouldn't dress in Vrindavan. He's dressing up for the goddess of fortune. Now, they say, as I mentioned, that the three deities on this day, they're wearing over 1 ton of gold. I don't know. Well, I certainly never was able to go and weigh each one of the different articles for Lord Jagannath. But I think if you also consider all the different golden ornaments that the Pandas wear, because all of them, they show some solidarity for Lord Jagannath. As we would say in American English, Jagannath is their homeboy. He's like their family person. So when he dresses up like that, they also dress up like that. These are the Daityapatis. And so then on the next day, the deities go back inside the Sri Mandir. Balaram goes first, and then Subhadra follows him, and they go to their places on the altar. However, when Jagannath is about to get down from his cart to go inside, Lakshmi Devi's maidservants slam that Singadwara gate, that lion gate, shut, and they forbid Jagannath entry inside the mandir. And so then at that time, there's a beautiful ceremony which takes place, and there's some different Sanskrit songs, which is sung by Jagannath's representative, and then some replies from the representative of Lakshmi Devi. Basically, Jagannath's spokesperson goes to the gate and loudly proclaims that Jagannath loves Lakshmi very much, his wife, and he feels very bad, and he's begging for her forgiveness. And then there's a voice that comes from the other side of the door, which says, "Go away." So then there's some more sweet words. And finally, then Jagannath is allowed to enter into the Singadwara gate. Now, for those of you who know the Jagannath Mandir, there's a number of different gates inside the Jagannath Mandir. When he goes through that Singadwara gate, then he goes up the 22 steps, and then there's another gate there. So when he arrives, he goes through that Singadwara gate. Everybody's blowing on conch shells and trumpets and beating drums and gongs, and they're all shouting, "Shri Jagannath Ki Jai." And Jagannath then comes inside to the Jai Vijay gate, which is the next gate there, and Lakshmi Devi's maidservants again slam the door shut, and they deny him entrance. And then Lakshmi Devi, she gives a message through her maidservant, because she's not speaking to Jagannath personally. And the Vamadev Samhita tells us what it is that Lakshmi Devi says. It's very, very sweet. Lakshmi Devi tells him, "Atristale shmakamapi Devi chandi sthita vibo asmin stale tvat sokyam deva nasti priya nahi." For those of you, I think most of us are you coming from Indian bodies, so you'll understand this. The Bideshis don't always understand this principle. But Lakshmi Devi, she tells Lord Jagannath, she says, "You want to come here to find your sweet, loving wife, but you're not going to find your sweet, loving wife." She says, "Atishtale smakamapi," the only person you're going to find here, Devi Chandi Stita Vibo. The only person you're going to find is that ferocious, angry form of Lakshmi's expansion, Durga, known as Chandi, who has a chopper in one hand and the head of a man in the other. He said, "So you want to find your nice, sweet, loving wife, but your wife's not here anymore. And the only person you're going to find is Goddess Chandi." Ashman stali twitvat sokyam. So there's no sokya, there's no happiness here for you. Devi nasti priyanihi. So you should go somewhere else. Ashman stali. Chandanadi sugandam yad bhaksha bojadikam shayat. Idam viharanistanam tatstanam gachahe vibo. And she says, "I know my husband, Chandanadi sugandam yad bhakshabojadi kamchayat. Jagannath, he likes nice sandalwood paste. He likes nice fragrant oils, bhaksha bhoja. He likes nice food and things. Well, you tell him he's not going to get that here. So idam viharani stanam. And you tell him his girlfriend must be feeling separation from him. Tat stanam gachahe vibho. Oh, my dear Vibho, my dear Lord, you should go to her. What are you doing here? So now Lakshmi Devi, nursing her neglect and humiliation, she's become the Manini Naika. And then Jagannath, he says, what can I do? I was with my elder brother Balaram before, and Lakshmi Devi becomes very shy around Balaram because he's Dauji, the older brother. So how could you come along with me? So then Jagannath, he says, don't worry, I remembered you, and I brought you a nice sari. And they present the sari before Lakshmi Devi. And Lakshmi Devi, go away. So you just get out of here. And then again and again, oh, Jagannath sent you some nice earrings and a nice necklace and this. And again, Lakshmi Devi refuses all the gifts that are petulant her husband is offering to her. And Lakshmi Devi, she says, I don't deserve such things. I come from a poor family. And then finally, they have a special festival every year in Jagannath Puri, and they make huge pots of rasgullas. Lakshmi Devi likes rasgullas very much. And they offer those rasgullas to Lakshmi Devi. And then Lakshmi Devi says, okay. And she allows Jagannath to enter into the temple again. And that festival, that's another festival. When Jagannath, again, they start blowing on the trumpets and beating on the gongs and the drums and they're shouting, Sri Jagannath ki jai. When Jagannath returns inside the Sri Mandir, that festival is called Niladri Vijay or Niladri Mahotsav. And that's Jagannath's third birthday. Jagannath is Krishna, Vrindavan Bihari, Radhakant, Yashodanandan Krishna. And his birthday is Janmashtami. But in the form of Jagannath, he appears on the day that we know of as Snan Purnima. So that's his second birthday. And what is his third birthday? Niladri Mahotsava, the Niladri Vijay, is the day that Lord Brahma installed him in the Jagannath Mandir, in the Sri Mandir. And that's why traditionally throughout India, different temples, when they have a festival commemorating the installation of the deities, they call that day Brahmotsava, or the festival of Lord Brahma, because it's after this particular pastime of Jagannath entering into the Sri Mandir. And so once Jagannath is returned inside the temple, there's one final ceremony. Well, Jagannath goes back on the altar, and then they have one last ceremony, which finishes up the Ratha-yatra. They take Madan Mohan and Lakshmi Devi, and they put them close together, and then they take their cloth, and they tie a knot again in the cloth between Madan Mohan and Lakshmi Devi. So this is something about the Ratha-yatra in Puri from the perspective of Goddess Lakshmi. Some years ago, we made one of our issues of our Sri Krishna Katamrita magazine. We called it Petit Pavan, or the Most Merciful Lord. And using Photoshop, I did something a little tricky. I took a photo of the Petit Pavan Jagannath deity who's just there inside the Singadwara gate, and that's a whole nother long story how he came there, which we wrote about in the magazine. And we took a photo of one of the signs on the outside of the temple, which said, only Hindus allowed. And using Photoshop, I cut that out and I stuck it underneath Petit Pavan Jagannath. So we call it the Most Merciful Lord, and then it says, only Hindus allowed. So it seems like a great contradiction. How is it that Jagannath is so merciful, but then he doesn't allow foreign devotees. One of the only things I know how to say in Oriya language is Bideshi Prabhesh Nishad. We're not allowed inside of the Jagannath Mandir. But it's not actually a wrong thing. And we wrote about this in this magazine. In that particular issue, we wrote about the marriage of Jagannath and Lakshmi, which turned out to be one of the main articles in the magazine. We wrote about the history, ironically, the legal history of Jagannath, of the policy of the Jagannath Mandir, banning foreign devotees, was established by foreigners. It was established by the British when they first came to Orissa, and there's a whole story behind that. They did it, to put it very succinctly, to pacify and try to make friends with the Pandits to get them on their side. And so there were, I think, 16 different personalities which were banned, including prostitutes and shoemakers and liquor sellers and bungis, and a number of different persons, including foreigners, were banned from entry into the Jagannath Mandir. And that policy came from the British. So we finished writing that magazine. Just around that time, our plan was that my wife and I were going to come to Europe, and I was going to travel. We usually go to Europe during the summertime and we get some katas. But I wanted to take the new magazine with me. Now, usually I do the design for the magazine too. It usually takes me about 1 month, roughly, to do the design for one of our printed magazines. And our tickets, we had to leave in 1 week. We had tickets flying out of Delhi. So somehow in that 1 week, we finished the design for the magazine. I didn't sleep very much, but we finished it. And the moment that we finished it, I went into Bhakti Rupa Prabhu's office. He's our copy editor and works with us in Gopalji Publications. I said, Prabhu, we finished. It's all done now. We're ready to go to the press. Just at that auspicious moment, one of our Brahmin friends, devotee friends, came in. He said, oh, I just came from Puri. That's very auspicious. We just finished the magazine, and he shows up from Puri. And he says, I brought you some Jagannath Mahaprasad. Wow, that's very, very auspicious. Mahaprasad shows up just at this time we finished the magazine. So we offered obeisances to the Mahaprasad and accepted that. And then he gave me an envelope with a card inside. And he said, there's one other thing I have here for you. And especially at that time, I couldn't read Oriya language. But I asked him, I opened it up, and I could see it has a picture of Jagannath Baladev Subhadra, and it's some kind of official thing from the Jagannath Mandir. I said, what is this? And he said, this is an invite, and it had my name on it. He said, this is an invitation to you from the Jagannath temple for you to go inside the temple and attend the wedding of Lakshmi and Jagannath. Oh my God. And we're leaving the next day to go to Delhi to print. And I told my wife at that time, I said, I think Jagannath's laughing at us. Now, devotees ask us many times when I tell this story, I said, well, could you have gone inside? Probably not. I would be very, very shocked. But for me, that's not what's important. If you can sneak inside the White House in America, you put on a mustache or some disguise or something, and you sneak inside, you manage to get past the guards and things. That's some kind of accomplishment. But far greater, far more relishable is if you get an invitation and you're invited inside. So for me, I never feel bad that I'm not allowed inside the Jagannath Mandir. I feel like Jagannath's abusing me. And if he's going to abuse me, then I'm going to wear his abuse as an ornament on my head. That's my happiness. If he wants to abuse me, aslisava padritam panastumam adarshan mamatam karotiva. If he doesn't want to give me darshan, mat prananatastu sevanapraha. He's the Lord of my life and no one else. Sometimes over the years, some of our Pandit friends in Puri have told me, it's happened a few times, he said, Madhavananda, you're very unfortunate. I say, why? He said, oh, you can't go inside the temple to have darshan of Lord Jagannath. And I tell them two things. First of all, I say, well, I don't have to go inside to see him. Rather, he comes outside to see me. And that's Gundicha Yatra, that's Ratha-yatra. Lord Jagannath comes outside to see all of his dear devotees. So I don't have to go inside. And then I ask him a second question. I say that you're a Panda and you know Shastra, Siddhanta. So please tell me who is more dear to Krishna in the Bhagavatam, who's more dear to Krishna, the Brijbasis or the Dwarkabasis? And they say, that's very easy. Everybody knows the Brijbasis are more dear to Krishna. And then I tell them, that's not true. It's a lie. How can you say that? And the proof is that Krishna left them and they were crying in separation. And he went to Dwarka and he was staying in Dwarka for so long and they were getting to have his darshan every day. So from that perspective, it at least appears that Krishna's giving more mercy to the Dwarkabasis than he does to the Brijbasis. It may seem like he loves them more, but that's not true. That's apara vichar, or the apparent consideration. And the tattva vichar, the absolute consideration, the rasa vichar, is that Krishna loves the Brijbasis more. But he leaves Vrindavan to evoke their feelings of separation. And that's a long discussion. And therefore, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has described that Jagannath Puri is Vipralamba Ketra, or the place of separation. And Lord Jagannath, he's a deity of separation. He's Mahabhav Prakash. He's the embodiment of ecstasy and separation from Srimati Radharani. One of Lord Jagannath's names is Radha Viraha Vidura Rup. If separation, the last limit of separation from Radharani can manifest a form, that form is Lord Jagannath. And Rasanandi Radha Sadasa Vapur Alingana Sukho. The Jagannath Ashtakam in the 6th verse describes that Lakshmi Devi, that Radharani is always embraced by Lord Jagannath to his chest. Now, for those of you who've done puja of Lord Jagannath, I was a Jagannath Pujari both in Los Angeles and then later in Bhubaneswar on the order of my Guru Maharaj. There's no Lakshmi Devi stuck to his chest or anything. There's no Radharani stuck to his chest. So where is she? My Guru Maharaj explained that Jagannath is Radha Viraha Vidura Rup. That on the inside is Radha and on the outside is Krishna. We did some research in one of our magazines some years ago, and we found that there's many different ceremonies when they make the new deity of Lord Jagannath, which happens every maybe 12 years or so. And they replace the old deity and they put that old deity in a place called Koili Vaikunta. It's like a burial ground inside the Jagannath Mandir. And when they find the Daro, it's a long, long discussion. They find the particular tree, they cut that tree down, then they cut the branches off, then they do an abhishek, they chant Purusha Shukta, they do many different ceremonies. Now, at that point, there's a secret mantra that the Pandas use. They perform Sadanga Nyasa. Sadanga Nyasa is a common ceremony which is done at the time of prana pratishtha or the installation of the deity. It in effect gives the identity to that form in which the Lord is going to enter into. So I managed to find out the mantra, secret mantra that they use. I have it if someone's really curious, I could bring it out and show you. We printed in our magazine. That mantra that they use for the Sanaganyasa, to give the identity of Lord Jagannath. And what is that mantra? That mantra is a Radha mantra. So Jagannath's internal conception of himself is Radha. He's on the outside, Krishna, he's called Kaliya, or the black one, Chakadola, he has his big eyes, his Mahabhav Prakash. But on the inside, Rasanandi Radha Sadasa Vapuralingana Sukho, he's always embracing Srimati Radharani. And my Guru Maharaj explained there's a strange meeting there in Virpalamba Ketra, that place of separation known as Jagannath Puri. And that Radha Viraha Vidur Rup Jagannath, who's Madhurja Rasa Ganaiti Murti, he's a condensed form of conjugal mellow. He's also known as Aishvarja Madhurja Yugala Milan, or he's a combined form of both opulence and sweetness. There's an amazing meeting between that form of separation of Jagannath, Shamsundar, Vrindavan Bihari Krishna, and Shrimati Radharani. And Shrimati Radharani appears there in the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who's Radha Bhava Duti Suvalitam Nomi Krishna Swarupam. He's Krishna Swarup, but Krishna's on the inside, and Srimati Radharani is on the outside. Radha Bhava Jyoti Suvalitam Nomi Krishna Swarupam. Radhakanta, her complexion and her form is on the outside, and on the inside is Krishna. And therefore, Jagannath is known as Radha Viraha Vidura Rup, or the embodiment of separation from Radha. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is known as Krishna Viraha Vidura Rup, or the embodiment of separation from Krishna. And so these two opposites, the embodiment of separation from Radha and the embodiment of separation from Krishna, have this kind of strange meeting in Jagannath Puri at the time of Ratha-yatra, and that place therefore is known as Vipralamba Kshetra. So I'm going to go ahead and stop there, and I want to thank you all very much. You've been so kind, and so many devotees came, 45 devotees. Braj Sundar Prabhu is doing a wonderful job there. And all the devotees, whenever we go to Govardhan, I always like to visit the Bhagavata Vidyalaya there. So maybe some devotees have some questions or comments. Braj Sundar Prabhu is here, looks like also. If you have any corrections or comments or questions or anything, you can go ahead and ask those now, I think. Krishna Kun, do you have something? No. Okay. So we'll go ahead and stop there then. And I'd like to give an open invitation for all the devotees here that Bala Ganesh Prabhu has a question. Is Jagannath a form of Vishnu? Yes. Krishna is also a form of Vishnu. But Krishna is known as Avatari. He's Swayam Rup Govinda. He's the original form of the Lord. And Lord Jagannath, according to Sanatana Goswami in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, is also Avatari. All the different avatars come from him. And one of the evidences of that is that in Jagannath Puri, all the different avatars, there's different Vaishas, like Nrsimha Chaturdasi Day, they dress Jagannath up as Lord Nrsimha Dev. On Ram Navami Day, they dress him up as Lord Ramachandra. And he has different dresses of all the different Das avatars because he's Avatari. But in Chaitanya Charitamrita, and not just in our Gaudiya literatures like Chaitanya Charitamrita and Chaitanya Bhagavata, but also in books like Padma Purana, which describes, there's a section about Jagannath, and in Skanda Purana and the Brahma Purana, which all have stories about Jagannath in them in Puri, all of them describe Jagannath as Vrindavan Bihari Krishna. So, can I share the articles that I was referring to? And why Shankaracharya says, Vishnam Lokam Sagachati. Thank you. The Jagannathastakam is written by Shankaracharya. Sometimes devotees say it was spoken by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We're working on writing some commentary on Jagannathastakam and also giving a critical edition with all the different nuances and differences in different places. And one of the things we're writing about is the authorship. And I spoke with many different Mahants and Pundits and different scholars in Orissa, and we've done research on this thing. And although some people say that it was spoken by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that's certainly possible, but the authorship is very, very unlikely because one simple thing we can see, how many commentaries are there on the Shikshastika prayers? In our library, we have a research institute in Jagannath Puri, which we call GORA, the Gaudiya Odia Research Association, which is a branch of the BRC, the Bhaktivedanta Research Center in Kolkata. And we must have at least a dozen commentaries on Shikshastika. But how many commentaries do we find in Jagannathastakam? 0. if it was spoken by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and it's such an amazing set of prayers, wouldn't someone give a commentary? Secondly, if it's spoken by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, why is it not given in Chaitanya Mangal, Chaitanya Bhagavat, Chaitanya Charitamrita, any of the biographies? It's not mentioned in any of them. It's such a beautiful prayer. But the tradition has it that it's written by Shankaracharya. Now, Shankaracharya, Adi Shankar, wrote some prayers to Krishna. So it's certainly possible. But one thing in the writings of Shankaracharya, we don't find any mention of Srimati Radharani. But in the 6th verse, which we were just citing several times, it's mentioned Vasanandi Radha Sarasa Vapra Lingana Sukho, that Radharani is embraced to his chest. Because of that, many local scholars are of the opinion that it was written by one of the Puri Shankaracharyas. For those of you who may know that there's 4 different Shankaracharyas in India, it's also a position, and they consider that it probably was written by some other Shankaracharya there. So I hope that's helpful. Omkareshwar Prabhu has got his hand up. You want to
Hare
share
Krishna
something,
Prabhu.
Prabhuji?
Yes. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandat Pranam. Thank you for the wonderful katha on perspective from the perspective of Lakshmi Devi. This Ratha-yatra, I have heard it first time, and it was really wonderful. I have 2 questions. One is, did you publish this pastime already in your magazine, in your fortnightly magazine, which you publish?
Yes.
And so is it also available in the email version, the soft version you say always distribute?
We didn't. I wrote something about the Bahuda Ratha-yatra, and we included a summary of the story about Lakshmi Devi in the Bindu magazine. You could go to to ISKCON Desire Tree, and all of our Bindu magazines are there. And you'll find one somewhere there about Ratha-yatra, about Bahuda Ratha-yatra. I think there's 2 issues we printed it in, that story.
And Prabhuji, thank you so much. My second question is, for example, I have listened the Jagannath, Sri Jagannath Katha only from our ISKCON devotees or Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophical point of view. So I want to ask a question like this: Gundicha temple, the mood is Vrindavan mood in the Gundicha temple. The Gundicha temple represents the Vrindavana. Are the local devotees, the local Dhamvasis in Jagannath Puri, they also have the same mood about Gundicha temple, or they have a different mood?
The Pandas in Puri are very eclectic, and some of them are followers of Rajneesh, and some of them are followers. There's 2 devotees I know who want to take initiation from Radhanath Maharaj, and maybe they did 2 Pandas. Some of them are like ISKCON devotees. I know one Swara cook who is chanting 64 rounds every day of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra before he would go and do his service for Jagannath. But some of them are also Mayavadis, and some of them, there's so many different Pandas. And some of them have their Gaudiya conception. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is very well known and appreciated in Puri. Not everybody understands and appreciates him as Krishna, but it's a common conception.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Your deep insights. Thank you.
Thank you for taking part today. It's so wonderful to see all the devotees taking part in this Bhagavata Mahavidyalaya. This is the heart of the devotees, to come together and have Krishna Katha, Prasangam Mama Virya Samvido Bhavanti Hritkarna Rasayana Katha. Lord Kapila gives this verse, that this is a Rasayana Katha, and this is how in the Bhagavatam, the 11th canto, says, Parasparana Katanam Pavanam Bhagavadyasa, that we should come together with devotees and hear and chant about Krishna. Nitai Chandra Prabhu, Nitai Chandra Nimai Prabhu, would you like to share something?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam Prabhuji. Thank you so much Prabhuji for such a wonderful Krishna Katha. I had one question in my mind for many years about this Jagannath Ashtakam, in which it is sung about Nayana Pathagami Bhavatume, and Srila Prabhupada tells about our Gaudiya mood of serving the Lord, not trying to see the Lord. So can you please tell like how much bona fide it is to sing this song? Like in Ratha-yatra also many times we sing.
Well,
So can you please?
let's just suppose that we're in Vrindavan and Krishna just left. And you go to the Braj Gopikas and you tell them, don't worry, don't feel bad. Krishna's on Zoom or Krishna's on Facebook. He's on WhatsApp and you can go see Krishna there. Do you think the gopis will be satisfied with that? They'll never be satisfied with that. So this prayer is in the mood of the gopis. Now, the gopis, if we think about their mood, it generally, there's a song when I grew up in America, and it's kind of a poem. The song's part of the song says, the boys watch the girls, and the girls watch the boys as the world goes by. In other words, that's the business of this world. Boys watching girls and girls watching boys. And we do that watching is for our selfish pleasure. Young men like to look at young girls because it's very pleasing to the eye, and young girls like to look at young boys for the same reason. So because of that, we're conditioned to consider, to believe that, well, to look to someone and get, that's for your selfishness. And the gopis, they want to see Krishna. They want to see Krishna more than anything. So the question comes then, is the gopis' desire a selfish desire? And the answer is no. It's very difficult to understand. The gopis, they understand Kada Karishyasi Hamam Kripa Kataksha Bhajan, that Krishna likes to have the glance of Srimati Radharani. The Srimati Radharani's glance, it becomes intoxicating to Krishna. He falls down unconscious sometimes. The gopis understand that their glance at Krishna brings pleasure to their Shamsundar Krishna. So they want that, and they understand, oh, who are these ladies in Mathura? What kind of pleasure are they giving to Krishna? It's like some well water compared to milk. It's not appropriate. We want to give Krishna the real thing, the best thing. And so they want to see him, but they don't. Why don't they just go then to Mathura? Radhanath Maharaj, many years, for years, when he would go to Vrindavan, he would take a train to Mathura, and he would get down to the train station and walk to Vrindavan. It would take him a few hours. It's not that long a walk. Now, if Radhanath Maharaj can walk from the distance between Mathura and Vrindavan, why can't the gopis just walk to Vrindavan, to Mathura? They can run there. It won't take them so long. Why don't they go to Mathura? It's a very interesting question. Very important question. They could easily go there, no problem, but they don't because they want to give the best pleasure to Krishna. And they're thinking, what kind of pleasure can we give to Krishna in that place where there's so much traffic and vehicles and noises and in the big city? We want him here in Vrindavan, and that's Ratha-yatra. Sometimes we're asked to speak in the West. We just attended Ratha-yatra a couple of days ago here in Budapest. We're visiting now in Hungary. And when we speak about Ratha-yatra to non-devotees, I generally tell them that this is a festival where we're rescuing God and taking him away from organized religion, organized mechanical religion, and bringing him to the village of our heart. That's Ratha-yatra. And so the gopis, they don't go to Mathura, but they go later to Kurukshetra because they want to see Krishna, but they don't want him in Kurukshetra. They want him in Vrindavan. And so that mood of seeing Krishna in that way, they want to see him because they want to serve him. And they understand that seeing him in that loving way is the best service. So we pray to Lord Jagannath that Jagannatha Swami Nayana Patagami Bhavatu Me. But we should understand that prayer, that's in the mood of the gopis. And that's something we hold on our head. It's pleasing to Lord Jagannath. Is that helpful?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Okay, anybody else? There's a couple of different comments here. Let's see, from Nitai Chandra. Nimai Prabhu is saying, You didn't read your own comment. Jagannath is inside Radha, outside Krishna. Mahaprabhu is inside Krishna and outside Radha. Is this correct? Yes. Now, not in a material sense, because they don't have material bodies. But Radha Bhava Jyoti Suvalitam Nami Krishna Srupam. Subdhamara Goswami in Chaitanya Charitamrita describes this, that the complexion and mood of Srimati Radharani is prominent in Krishna when he comes as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And so also Lord Jagannath on the outside is Krishna, but on the inside he has that mood of Radha, according to my Guru Maharaj. And by these evidences, and there's some other evidences also, it's a big subject matter. Thank you, Manjari Vidyavati. Hare Krishna, nice comment. And Kanai Das Prabhu has commented that we've heard many different stories from different devotees about the appearance of Lord Jagannath deities. Can you please clear up which one is exact? Well, our Goswamis, especially Sanatana Goswami and Jiva Goswami, they explain that the same pastimes happen again and again and again in different Dibya Yugas. Sanatana Goswami gives an example in Brihad Bhagavatamrita that whenever Krishna comes, he has some exchanges with Kaliya. But sometimes he drives Kaliya out of Vrindavan, and sometimes he doesn't drive Kaliya out. Sometimes he says he puts a ring through Kaliya's nose and then puts a rope to the ring, and he rides Kaliya like a horse. And when he goes to Mathura to see Kamsa, sometimes he goes with the Krura, and sometimes he rides on the head of Kaliya. And other times he says that he does a Ras Leela dance on the hoods of Kaliya with the gopis. Similarly, in the Bhagavatam, we hear this most important story of Maharaj Parikshit and how he was cursed by Shringi and Takshaka, the snake bird is going to come and kill him and everything. But in the Mahabharata, the same story is told in a very different way. And how there it said that Parikshit Maharaj builds a castle, and he's staying inside the castle to avoid the Takshaka, and Takshaka comes in the form in an apple and a worm and bites him in that way. So how do we understand these differences? And there's many, many different differences. So our Goswamis have described that according to the different age, the different yuga, these pastimes happen in different ways, a little differently. So there's many different. Jagannath is an eternal form of the Lord. That's also confirmed in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, where it's described all the different planets of the Lord in the spiritual sky, the different eternal forms of the Lord. And one of them is a planet of Jagannath. So that's an eternal form of the Lord. How that form manifests sometimes in Dwarka, the mother of Balaram Rohini, she's telling some story, and Krishna comes there and he manifests a Mahabhav Prakash. Sometimes there's different stories. I know of at least 2 or 3 different stories about the origin of Jagannath. So we can see it's not that one is true and another is not true. Okay. Anything else from anybody? Prabhuji, Krishna Kumar Prabhu?
Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. I would like to know that most of the temples where you see Krishna, Lord Krishna is very this one. But in Jagannath Puri only, why he has got big round eyes and
Yeah.
only this temple?
Yes, my Guru Maharaj told a story about that, which is a very old story in Jagannath Puri, and probably it comes from a book called Mahabhav Prakash by Kanai Kunti. I say probably because at our research institute, we've collected that book, but it's been lost. And now there's only one chapter left, just like we have the Brahma Samhita, which is only one chapter of the whole book. So the Mahabhav Prakash by Kanai Kunti was an associate of Mahaprabhu. He was the head priest in the Jagannath Mandir. And he writes in the beginning of the book that he heard these things from Ramananda Roy in the Gambhira. And so the book is about Mahabhav Prakash, when the Lord manifests his Mahabhav, his form of the greatest ecstasy. And so the story that my Guru Maharaj told, a couple of the stories, which would take us quite a bit of time to explain here now, that in separation from the gopis in Vrindavan, Krishna, hearing the stories about Vrindavan, manifests this form. His eyes become very big, A smile comes on his face, his arms and legs shrink inside of his body. And that form is known as Mahabhav Prakash. It's also known as Madhurja Rasa Ganaiti Murti, or the condensed form of conjugal mellow. He's also called Aishvarya Madhurja Yugala Milan, or the combined form of both opulence and sweetness. So that form is Mahabhav Prakash. It's a very, very unusual form of Krishna. And for the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, in one sense, we're not attracted to that form. We want to see Dvibhuj Murlidhar, Krishna playing on his flute. And in Jagannath Puri, Mahaprabhu, he would stand near to the Garuda Stamba, because from that vantage point, you can't see, I'm told, I haven't been inside the temple, but you cannot see Balaram or Subhadra. He only sees Jagannath. And he would see it sometimes Jagannath would sometimes manifest his form as Dvibhuj Murlidhar, Krishna playing a flute before Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That's our Gaudiya deity. But this is a form of separation. Is that helpful, Prabhu? You have such a sweet smile, Prabhuji. I can see you must be a very kind-hearted devotee. Please bless me and try to serve the devotees. Hare Krishna. Okay. So anybody else who want to share any comments or anything? The Bahuda Rath takes place in the same month as the Ratha-yatra. It's just like 1 week after the Ratha-yatra. All of these take place in the month of Ashada. All these pastimes that I mentioned. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and stop there. If I have permission from our kind host, Lakshmi Priya Mataji. She asked me what I wanted to speak about. And I said, how about the perspective of Lakshmi Devi? And she said, yes. She was very enthusiastic because she's Lakshmi Priya Devi Dasi, so she likes that very much. So that's okay today?
Yes,
Anything you
Prabhu,
want
thank
to
you so
add?
much for such lovely class. We really relished the class throughout. It was so informative. And on behalf of ISKCON Bhagavata Mahavidyalaya, we really appreciate your presence in today's class, Prabhuji. And also, I would like to make an important announcement for all the devotees here. We are going to start, ISKCON Bhagavata Mahavidyalaya is going to start with Diploma in Srimad Bhagavatam from day after tomorrow, that is on 4th of July, from evening 7:30 to 9:30. So I would request all the devotees to join us and relish the glorification of Srimad Bhagavatam with us. We have very beautiful speakers with us, like His Holiness Bhakti Damodar Swami Maharaj, His Holiness Sundar Chaitanya Swami Maharaj, His Holiness Swayam Bhagwan Keshav Swami Maharaj. We have Amok Lila Prabhuji, and we have Radhika Vallabh Prabhuji, Rishi Kumar Prabhuji, Pran Govind Prabhuji, Bharat Sundar Prabhuji. So I would request all the devotees to not miss this golden opportunity to relish Srimad Bhagavatam and our wonderful association of all the speakers. So thank you so much once again to be a part of this beautiful class today on a very short notice. I really appreciate your presence, and please always be in touch with us and let's study and grow together. Thank you so much once again, Prabhuji, for being a part of today's class. And we really appreciate your presence. Thank you for your divine presence today.
Shri Jagannath Baladev Srimati Subhadra Mai Sudarshanju Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Ratha-yatra Mahamahotsav Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Vancha Kalpatarubhishcha Kripa Sindhu Bhavacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Lakshmi Priya Mataji, do I have your permission to go?
One more thing, Prabhuji. I also wanted to tell that we have a special promo code for today's class only. We are giving 25% of discount only for today's class, which whomsoever is present in this class today. So to avail the special discount for Diploma in Srimad Bhagavatam, the code is VRAJ, VRAJ 25. To avail 25% of discount, I repeat, VRAJ 25, VRAJ 25. So see you soon and stay tuned. Thank you so much, and Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhuji, I permit you.
Okay, thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.